computer. There we go. Thank you, Leela, very much. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our monthly Urban Devi Sangha. This month we have Dinatarini Devi Dasi here speaking with us. She was born in DC and grew up in South Florida. And she's actually returned to South Florida, that's where she is now. In 1970, she met the devotees of the Hare Krishna movement at a rock festival and received a Bhagavad Gita from them. This seemingly chance meeting changed the trajectory of her life. She joined the temple in Tallahassee, Florida later that year and was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1972 in Dallas, Texas. Over the years, she served the mission in India, the UK, and North America in a wide variety of capacities. In 1974, she met her devotee companion, Yamuna Devi, and they served together for the next 37 years until her passing in 2011. Excuse me. Dinatarini Devi is the author of Yamuna Devi, A Life of Unalloyed Devotion, and the soon to be released, or maybe already released, Yamuna Devi, The Study of Seva Puja. So welcome, Dinatarini, to our Sangha. We look forward to hearing from you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here to speak to you all. This is something I don't do very much. And as I said, I'm a little under the weather today, so please forgive me if I consult my notes more than I would normally do. I'll start by offering my prayer. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yana Jana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Deradi Svavadantikam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. So today I'd like to speak a bit about seeing challenges and obstructions that come into our spiritual lives as opportunities for growth and advancement, and how we can cultivate beneficial association and loving friendships that nurture our devotional lives. So for all of us, when we become serious about our spiritual lives, invariably disturbances, obstructions, and challenges are placed within our paths. So our question could be why? If I'm a sincere person, if I'm sincerely striving in my spiritual life, well, why are there sometimes so many challenges and obstacles placed before me? So there's one wonderful story told in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about a Brahmin who lived in Avantipur. And this Brahmin was a banker and an agriculturist. He was very wealthy. And he had the unfortunate disqualification of being very miserly. And so not only was he miserly in his business dealings and to everyone around him, he was also miserly to his family. And so his family grew disaffected with him, and he lost their affection. So then not long after that, he lost all of his money. And because he didn't have a family structure around him, they had become disaffected. He was forced to go out on his own. He became a renunciate, and he started traveling from here to there and begging wherever he went. But unfortunately, everyone knew who he had been. And so people would throw rocks and other horrible things at him and mock him, and still he persevered. And what happened was he became extremely humbled. And there's a wonderful verse in that chapter where he says, I think the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari, must be satisfied with me. Indeed, he has brought me to this suffering condition and forced me to experience detachment, which is the boat to carry me over this ocean of material life. So when I first read that, I thought detachment to carry me over material life, that I must learn detachment. So what is detachment? So the dictionary definition means that it's the state of being objective or being aloof, dispassionate, if you will. And so in our spiritual life, though, there is a difference in meaning. It doesn't mean that we become aloof or dispassionate in our responsibilities and even in our affection towards our family, towards each other. It means that this dispassion means that we're not emotionally anymore held within its grip. So in other words, if we don't develop some level of this detachment, then we're completely consumed by our material lives. And it's very, very difficult then to walk the path of our spiritual lives because there are too many encumbrances along the way. So then we may ask ourselves, but why have I not experienced this detachment? Even though I'm trying, I've still not experienced this detachment or even felt the need to develop it. You know, that's my position. So how do I understand that the hindrances and obstacles that come unwanted into my life can help me on my spiritual journey in devotional life? So there's another wonderful verse about what detachment brings in the Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. He's speaking there simply by hearing about your lotus feet, Krishna, God's lotus feet, with eagerness and devotion. And by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. We must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your, meaning the Lord's lotus feet. So in the purport, our Srila Prabhupada said that this improvement in knowledge and attachment is experienced immediately as an actual experience. In other words, it's something that can be felt internally immediately simply by the sincere desire to hear about the glories of the Lord. So another great Vaishnava who I very much appreciated the way that he put this. He's a great acharya in our spiritual line. So he says, so there may be disturbances, rather we may say that there should be. In its retinue, disturbance must come, and we're to undergo them, but we must remain sincere, and we must face the difficulty in a proper way. I have to scrutinize myself in every position. I have to analyze within me this Atma Nikshepa, which means self-analysis. So we should not be afraid of any adverse circumstances. We have to scrutinize them and what we thought we understood more accurately and find out within me, where am I? What is my real need? And how much is my hankering for the real? All these needs all of these difficulties. Otherwise, God has no error. The environment I face is in the hands of the Lord. And if I'm sincere, then adjust myself with the environment, put my faith before Him, realize it as best you can, and try to see the grace of the absolute present everywhere, eager to help me, coming in the guise of an apparently unfavorable environment, according to the vision of my present experience. the solution that solves our unfavorable. That's the end of the quote. So if we can learn to see these apparent adversities that come and as challenges in our spiritual lives, as opportunities for growth, we can actually ultimately achieve an attitude of gratitude for them as helpmeets, because for so often when challenges come to us, often we learn from them if we introspect, if we have that ability to go within and try to understand why this challenge has come, that we grow from it. Usually it's in retrospect, usually it's after the fact. If it's some very traumatic or difficult challenge, sometimes it's difficult when you're in the midst of the fire of it to actually even feel anything other than, why am I suffering? And why is this all coming down on me? And many of us even blame Krishna, God, for it. But then afterwards, we look back and we think, oh, I was in this condition. I was in this suffering condition. And I've learned to become more patient. I've learned to become more compassionate. I've learned to depend more on the Lord. My faith has increased. And so therefore, these are opportunities, and we develop as time goes on with the wisdom that comes with growth in our spiritual life. We develop this sense of gratitude. So for a devotee, everything is an opportunity. Everything that we come across is an opportunity. But we can't achieve this growth alone. We have to have the association of like-minded devotees, persons who are on the same path and who are like-minded with us. What do I mean by that? It's very interesting in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There's a quote where Hiranyakashipu, one demon, is telling his son, he says, "My dear son, association is very influential upon people. Like a crystal takes on the qualities of the one with whom it associates. For this reason, intelligent persons should seek out the company of high class and like-minded souls." So in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, there are three general classifications of devotees: the neophyte, the intermediate, and the advanced. So Prabhupada once, I remember sitting in a group in a room with him, and there was some problem with one of his students, and Srila Prabhupada said to him very clearly, he said, "You should know how advanced you are." He said, "I should not have to tell you. You should know what your position is in terms of your advancement in your Krishna consciousness." So I was astonished when I heard that, because Srila Prabhupada had told us before that we should sit before the deity, each night, and we should express what has happened during our day, more or less. And I took that to mean that, not that, yes, I cooked prasadam at this time, and at this time I went to the bank, and at this time I did this, and at this time I did that. I took that to mean, what did I do that would push me forward in my spiritual life, and what faults are there? So this honesty is so important in our spiritual life, that we develop the capacity to look within ourselves with honesty, because then advancement comes quite quickly if we can do that. So we want to seek out. When he said that, he said, we're assessing our faults, our goals, our ambitions in our spiritual lives, all of these things. and what we need to accomplish them. So we need to seek out like-minded souls to share this with, to be able to reveal our minds to. And so we have to understand what the qualities of a devotee are. They're listed, there are 26 of them in the Shastra that are listed. Some of them are merciful, they're truthful, they're equal to all, they're magnanimous, they're mild, they're clean, they're peaceful, they're respectful to all, they're compassionate, they're a kind friend, grave, expert, poetic, sober. These are some of them. So in order to properly put that in, the first thing is that to everyone we should offer respect. That respect is foundational, fundamental in our spiritual. But to those who display some envy or some jealousy, that mixing too intimately with them might discourage me in my spiritual life, we should just offer respects, but not reveal our mind. And to those who are like-minded, and when I say like-minded, I'm going to be able to reveal my mind, and they're not going to judge me. We're going to be able to understand each other on a very deep level and not judge each other, not be critical in the sense that I am, more advanced than you, you are less, but you're like-minded and you're sharing and you're helping each other and encouraging each other. And then those devotees that display these qualities to a great extent, we simply want to serve them. We want to hear from them more and more. But focusing on the like-minded second division mostly right now, because this is what will help us the most in our progress in spiritual life. And I think my god sister Vishaka Devi said it very nicely in a Back to Godhead article once. She said, a devotee behaves towards each differently. With some, they'll sincerely offer respect. With others, they will engage in pleasant and enlivening conversation, and with a few inquire confidentially. Intimacies and friendship between like-minded Vaishnavas begin when there is mutual trust, as well as mutual respect for and faith in each other's Krishna consciousness. When, over time, such trust, respect, and faith become firm and unwavering, one has support for the bhakti lata, one's climbing plant or creeper of devotion. I thought she said that very nicely. And that's the point that I'm trying to make using my own example. I've been very fortunate in this life to have a few of those dear devotee friendships that were especially powerful, and particularly my companion in devotional service for almost all my adult life, Yamuna Devi. When I look back on it now, I see that once in that relationship was that everything that happened, every challenge that came, every obstacle that was placed before us, we would sit and we would examine it from several different viewpoints, and we never had major disagreements, because we from the very earliest days, this was our method. We would try to look at things from the other's perspective as well as ours. And in doing so, wade our way through whatever the challenge was. She helped me in so many ways. I can honestly say that I was mostly uncivilized when I met her. Grew up in such a family that I really didn't have a family. I always joke that I was raised by wolves. I could have been raised by wolves because I really didn't have family structure, and didn't have any affection, and I didn't have any of the things that are normally there within the family. And so I wasn't trained in even the most basic aspects of compassion, of sharing, of all of the important things in friendships, in forming relationships. And Yamuna was the opposite. She was like Mother Earth. Everyone gravitated to her. She had unlimited compassion for everyone. In fact, people come up to me even to this day, I get emails where people say that, when she spoke to them, even if it was just a minute conversation, she had their full attention, their full focus. It was like they were the only person in the world to her. And so by Krishna's grace, I was given that opportunity to learn and grow with someone who was very compatible with me. And there's an interesting story around that. In 1970, early 1975, Yamuna and I moved to Oregon with the idea of starting a woman's ashram there. And it was a very difficult time in ISKCON for women, especially. And so we were there on our own, and it was unauthorized at the time. And so Srila Prabhupada was coming to Los Angeles, and by grace of some wonderful godbrothers of ours, it was arranged that we come and see him. But before that, we had been getting calls and letters from people telling us just blatantly that you've lost the mercy of Srila Prabhupada because you're not living in a large ISKCON temple. At that time, that was the standard. There weren't these satellite programs then. So you've lost his mercy. And we were devastated by that because we had a temple. We had a wonderful temple. We had a cow. We had a wonderful program, and we're doing the 5 offerings a day. And I mean, we were fully engaged, and very happily so, in trying to develop this program. But without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we felt it was all for naught. And so when we went to see him, Yamuna placed that question before him. That was the first question that she placed before him, that Srila Prabhupada, we've been told that without the association of all of the devotees in the temple, we won't be able to have your mercy. And without your mercy, what is our life? So please tell us, instruct us what you'd like us to do. And Srila Prabhupada just became very sober. And he said very clearly, he said, association can mean 2 or 200. He said, if you're 2 and you're compatible, in other words, you're like-minded, you're compatible, he said, you can go back to Godhead. But if you're 200 and you're not compatible, then his eyes became very big, and he said, then no one will make any advancement. We were so stunned to hear that because we had other questions as well. And every question we placed before him, he gave us the opposite answer of what we were expecting. And that was Srila Prabhupada. He was just so kind and so merciful. He always encouraged us to stay where we were. One of the leaders in that community kept saying, but let them come down here, and we have this apartment, and we'll engage them in this, and we'll engage them in this way. And Srila Prabhupada immediately said, you Westerners are so restless. Said, why can't you stay in one place and be happy? No. So he shut that down immediately. So there are 6 symptoms usually of exchanges of love between devotees, and they are giving gifts in charity, offering gifts in charity, accepting gifts in charity, revealing one's mind in confidence, that's in our scriptures, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad and offering prasad. So I go back to this point of inquiring confidentially, revealing one's mind in confidence. This is so important. We have to have those friendships where we can reveal our mind in honesty. Say we are having some doubt, we're having some stumbling block in our devotional life. There has to be at least one person we can go to and express that, who's going to be our well-wisher, who's not going to judge us, but is going to encourage us, even if there is some fall down or some misconception. So this is why this association is so important, the importance of association with like-minded individuals. We even have examples of that in our own Gaudiya Vaishnava line from some 400 years ago, where one of our great acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, he had a companion in his devotional life named Ramachandra Kaviraj. And in 2 places, at least, Narottam Das wrote about Ramachandra Kaviraj. And one is a prayer that we sing every time a great Vaishnava passes. His disappearance day is there, Yayani Lo Premadana. So in the Prema Chandrika, the Prema Bhakti Chandrika, another book of Narottam Das, he writes, "My only wish is to have the association of Ramachandra Kaviraj. Without him, everything looks empty. If I am to be born again, may I get his association. Then the life of Narottam will be successful." So how important, even amongst the Paramahantas, even amongst the most elevated devotees, is the association of those 1, 2, or a few very special souls that you feel that connection with. So I encourage all of you to always seek that out, as difficult as it is. And when you find it, treasure it, and never let any of the inconsistencies of daily life hinder the progress of that relationship, or those relationships. So I think that's all I wanted to say on that. Obviously, it's something that played a huge influence in my own spiritual life, that I had Yamuna and a few other wonderful Vaishnavis, devotees, who I could openly share my thoughts and my feelings and exchange, and have them and have a heart open enough that if they tell me, I think you're thinking of this in the incorrect way, that I'm open enough that I can accept that as well, but knowing that the relationship remains confidential, and it remains something that we're very privileged to have in our devotional life. So thank you very much for fog today, but very happy to be able to spend this little bit of time with you all.
Thank you so much. I actually, I just started crying thinking about some of what you talked about today, particularly what like-minded means, and to have people who you can reveal yourself without judgment. And
yes,
that's big, without judgment.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's rare. And it's so central. It's so important because we, as I said, respect is at the core of every relationship that we have, regardless. Someone, even non-devotees, anyone, there should be a level of respect there. But we find that sometimes among our own community, there are those who are not yet mature enough to understand the importance of not being, of trying to conquer envy, of trying to conquer jealousy, trying to conquer covetousness in all ways. And that spills over into how they perceive us. And it also spills over in how we perceive them. But we still perceive them with respect, especially in the intermediate stage. We always want to have that respect there, but we can exchange with them and, cook with them and walk with them and do whatever, but we just don't reveal our minds. That's saved for the special few.
Thank you, Rukmini, dear. Rukmini Devi, do you have some thoughts and or questions before we break into smaller groups? I see your face, I see your smile, and you're still muted.
I just put something in the chat for Leela Devi, but I was thinking, I think everyone would love to hear some stories of challenges, high points, high moments with Yamuna Devi in your life with her, challenging moments. What particularly stands out for you as moments of remembrance in particular? I think everyone's really longing to hear stories of whatever you'd like to share, specifics, highs, lows, inspirations, laughter, whatever you'd like to share. I think everyone's thirsty, hungry for that.
Oh, a big part of our relationship was laughter. We laughed a lot. People would say, as I said before, we never had any major disagreements, but we bickered back and forth like fishwives sometimes. It was always about, did you leave the black on the bottom of the pot? And I would say, because she was so, but anybody who knew her, she was so meticulous. I mean, Srila Prabhupada taught her about cleanliness. She was already very much into that. But as a personal servant of Srila Prabhupada, both in cooking and in cleaning, she was just over the top, because I remember this one instance in Vrindavan. They had put these black, I guess it's granite floors down, and they had a black, I don't know, oil or something on them, and you couldn't clean it, like for months. You couldn't clean it. Every time Yamuna would try to clean it, everything would come up black, again. And Srila Prabhupada came in one day and said, "You're cleaning it wrong. This is how you clean it." And he took a mop and, one of those hand mops, and just went back and forth with it, swept it back and forth. And Yamuna was astonished at that. So that took some time to get clean, but he would, I think that I told the story, and Yamuna has told the story many times, of how she would clean his rooms in Vrindavan. And one day Srila Prabhupada walked in after she had cleaned his rooms, and he said to her, "Yamuna, you did not clean my room today?" And Yamuna said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada, I cleaned the room today." And he went over to his desk, and on his desk, among many things, there was one of those little miniature staple guns. And he took that staple gun and he opened it up to where the staples are in the top, and he took his pinky and like that. So she had this within her whole life. She was cleaning was, and so she did the same thing to me some years later when we were living in Washington, D.C. She had gone out on a book promotion tour, and I was working at that time, and in downtown DC, and she came back from the tour, and before she came, I knew how she was, and I had cleaned the ashram beautifully according to my standard. And yeah, I thought it was very nice, that it was. And so she came in and more or less did the same thing Srila Prabhupada did. Oh, you didn't get a chance to clean the ashram, And I said, what do you mean I didn't get a chance to clean? I cleaned this ashram start to finish. And she went over to the door between the rooms and took her finger across the top of the door, the very top. And then she said, you didn't get this, like that. So that was always there. I think that, to be honest, we enjoyed that bickering exchange. It was a nice stress relief, in a way. But I can honestly say that in 37 years, we never had a major disagreement at all in 37 years. She was the most supportive, loving friend. It's difficult to even put into words, how that expressed itself. But I have to say that we had so many challenges in our life, being two women, and trying to work within an ISKCON that was very heavily driven at that time by sannyas men in those early days. And we faced one challenge after another. We were actually, I shouldn't say this, I don't know if it's proper to say this, but we were actually living in the station, in the place, when 6 of the 11 first zonal Acharya gurus fell down. So we were there we were confronted with everything, and we tried to deal with it as compassionately as possible, but mostly we were going from place to place, to be honest. It's very, very difficult to stay in such trying circumstances. But if you ask me a specific thing, I can try to recall it, but it's very difficult offhand to recall occasions. Certainly for me, one of the great highlights in my Krishna conscious experience was when we lived in Sharanagati, which was a farm community in Canada. We built our own ashram there. We built a straw bale house that now my godson Kartamisha and his family are living in. And it took, I could not even begin. I could write a book on the challenges we faced in building that, because Sharanagati is in the middle of nowhere. So there's no question of calling in a plumber, a builder, anyone. I did the septic tank, all the septic tank lines and everything to code approval. I did all of that. We did everything to code approval, and Jamuna and I and our two wonderful male devotee helpers, and sometimes other devotees would come and help. So we built that, and it was built to Vastu Shilpa standards. We actually had paid a Vastu Shilpa architect from the Maharishi Society to help us perfectly plot it, so that it was a perfect square within a perfect square of land. It was very wonderful, but there are just so many challenges up there. We didn't have water. I could just go on, and I won't bore you with that. But within those challenges, a very amazing and wonderful thing happened. And that was the youth started coming to our ashram for bhajan. And it was youth from without and youth from within. And we began having, there was one point over a 3-year or a 5-year period where we had 6 programs out of 7 days, 6 evening programs of bhajan, kirtan, readings. And they were wonderful beyond what I can express. If you get a chance, go on the Unalloyed Facebook page or the krishnamagic.com website. There are recordings there of all of or many of the bhajans that we had. We started with Sharanagati, which is a 50 song songbook of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then we went to Kalyana Kalpaturo after we sang all that. And then we went to Gitavali, all songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then we went back again. And even when traveling, we traveled to Vrindavan with our group of young devotees, and we would do a Sharanagati or do a Gitavali, and devotees would come from Vrindavan or Mayapur. And so I remember that for me, seeing the ecstasy in the young devotees during those bhajans and kirtans was a highlight of my life, because I saw how transformative the holy name is in the hearts of all who chant, and never take that for granted. It was just anyone who was there would have immediately been certain, as we were, of the power of the holy name and the power of these bhajans. Even we had 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds there, and sometimes they were more in tune than some of their own parents. And, they would come in, I don't know if you've ever heard of Kalyana Kalpaturo, but there's some very heavy songs in there. And these little 11-year-olds would be singing them, and yes, this is what I want. And, it was so wonderful, a wonderful experience to see. So perhaps because that was the more recent in my life, it remains very meaningful to me. Yeah. And to Yamuna as well. If you listen to those prayers, you can hear her shouting, and she had a very loud voice, and you can hear her shouting in the background, Gauranga, like that.
Thank you so much. Such beautiful stories and pastimes. I really appreciated hearing that. So there's a question. We'll just go to 2 of these questions that are posted, and then we can do the breakout rooms. But someone wants to know, could you please elaborate more or explain what reveals your mind and confidence really means? So just tell us a little bit more about that.
Revealing your mind and confidence means that I'm going to speak something from the core of my heart, something that I would not speak to anyone in a public setting or speak to anyone. It may be doubts that I have. It may be some material desire that I have. It may, just be something that I don't want known. And I know that if I speak it to you, that you're going to hold it within your heart, within the core of your heart, and that you're not going to speak to others about it, and you're not going to judge me for my own perceived faults, like that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And also there's the component of being the one who hears.
Yes.
Someone sharing in confidence, to always hold that with the
Absolutely.
sacredness and
Yes.
honor that it deserves. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank
It's
you.
a very special thing, and as I said, very rare, because when you have that trust, that level of trust, and once it's broken, it's very difficult to get back. So it's very important that we treasure that, and that we seek out those devotees, those personalities who we think are going to help us advance, who by their own, in other words, when I read the qualities of a devotee, obviously some may have some qualities to some degree, and some may have the qualities to a greater degree. So we appreciate it all, but we want to seek out those who, by whose company, by whose association, I may gain more insight, or let's say perspective in my own spiritual life, and I gain a proper perspective. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, we have this other question. Sadhana is she's sharing, grateful for your courage and boldness in supporting women in ISKCON. What are key learnings as we face future challenges?
Well, that's another class in itself.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down again to respect, to the quality of respect. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, but I wonder how many of us really embrace it and imbibe it within ourselves, so that others, so we actually can give that to others. If respect is there between devotees, whether male or female, then I think so many of the issues resolve themselves automatically. I have god brothers who I have great respect for, and they treat me with respect, and there's no issue. The commonality of respect is there, and therefore the other issues become insignificant or barely significant. So I would say that is the starting point. Yeah. So would you like to have your talks and then we can get together again? Somebody's muted. Leela, you're muted.
Okay, so yes, let's break out into small groups. And I didn't hear a specific question, so we can, is there a specific question, something that we can discuss?
Well, I think that, yeah, I would just ask what you've assimilated of everything that I've said, and how you can apply it in your own life.
Okay, I'm going to start setting up the groups now. There'll be.
So how do I get back on?
The timer will automatically put everyone back into the main.
So I just leave my computer on like this?
Yes.
Okay.
And one moment.
Okay. See if I can open that up again. I'm losing my voice here, so it's good that we're winding down.
Is everyone back?
I think we're still missing a few. 25 seconds.
Oh, mine says 0.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Hey.
Leela, did you see my question about what is Krishna magic?
I did, yeah, that one's coming up. So yeah, I love this question. Maybe this is my favorite thing to talk about. So we have one more question. What is Krishna magic?
Krishna magic. Now, it was a term that Yamuna coined. And it was just very, very interesting. It was during this time in Sharanagati. And there was, as I said, coming to all of our programs, also the young girls who we call the milkmaids used to come and help decorate the altar, and they would help Jamuna cook. And then we would have these programs, and so many, they would cry and jump and laugh. And one day, one of them said, "What is this? What is this that I'm feeling?" And Jamuna said, "It's the Krishna magic. It's the Krishna magic." So that became a regular saying in our ashram. And so when Carr set up the web page, he used Krishna magic. We still sometimes use it to this day. As I was saying, just published this book, very difficult to publish for a lot of reasons. It's based on, and it includes Yamuna's deity book that she started in order, Srila Prabhupada had asked her to study from the Goswami temples in Vrindavan, their standard of deity worship, so that she could implement that in our Krishna Balaram Mandir. And she had favorite temples that she went to, and the pundits there and the Goswamis were very merciful towards her, specifically pointing out Radharaman Mandir, Padmanabh Goswami, and his father were very, very merciful and kind to her, and allowed her access to so much information. She studied in many temples, and she started writing everything down, illustrating designs and clothes and things that she liked, and the different jewelry and shringar and all of these things. And she collected them in a parchment bound book that whatever ashram we were living in at the time, it would usually sit on a coffee table or sit somewhere, and people would look at it. And so over the years, so many people have asked, why don't you publish that? But it was easier said than done, because you have to remember that when Yamuna was studying, this was 1971, 72, she was the only, virtually the only white-skinned person in Vrindavan. And at the time, she didn't know their language, and they didn't know her language, well. And so they would speak something to her, and she would write it down phonetically, because she didn't know how it was really spelled. And so a lot of the deity book is, things that are, say, obscure jewelry, like a sikhi on Srimati Radharani's crown. She would write that down as she heard it. And so we tried to correct as much as possible without interfering with the intent of what Yamuna was saying. And I wrote a foreword at the beginning of the book where I said, please understand that these words may be spoken very differently now, but this was how she understood them and how she wrote like that. So so that book has been published. We're waiting for it to be sent out now. We have distributors in India and England and here in the States. And I think there's, because of the COVID crisis there, it's been held up a little bit, but we expect in the next month or so.
Where can we get that book?
In Alachua, I think Carr's mother is handling the distribution of some. She did some of the last book as well, but I can find that out and send it to you. I know in India, Tulsi Press at Chowpatty is handling the distribution. So very, very happy that we finally got that out. And I hope the devotees enjoy it. Seeing another aspect of the focus of Yamuna Devi, how careful and meticulous she wanted that deity worship to happen. And also there's a section on our deity, Sri Sri Radharani Bihari, and how she conceived of each of their outfits, the summer, the winter, the spring and fall variations. And just like that, just getting into detail, that type of thing.
I just want to interrupt and just thank you for your meticulous work and hard work for her and for Prabhupada in bringing that to fruition. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a labor of love. I started writing very shortly after she passed, and it was a way to deal with the grieving process. And by Krishna's grace, so my core group of young devotees came down, and they were able to find a rental apartment on the beach for a reasonable amount of money, like 50 steps from where we lived. I mean, just literally right across the street. And they stayed for 6 months and helped with the book. And Giriraj Swami came down for some time, and other devotees came and assisted. So we felt very fortunate. That was a Krishna magic, get that out. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So we put the name of the book here in the chat. I'm really, really looking forward to that. And then Brajarani put a link for the other book, the first 2-volume book,
Yes.
A Life of Unalloyed Devotion. It's also, just going to throw this little like blurb in there, on the audio book is amazing because it has these like kirtans and sound bites. It's really, really interactive. It's
I'm
beautiful.
glad you like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun project to work on as well, doing the audio book. I made a studio from a video I found on YouTube out of a laundry basket, not a laundry bag, one of those big plastic storage tubs, and filled it with the eggshell foam, and then put the recorder inside of it, and it ended up recording beautifully.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Being a little industrious down here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have heard that. That just makes it even more special.
Yeah, it was.
Nice. So yeah, we have a link for that as well. So there's a couple of comments I'll just read. And then we always leave a time for Rukmini to ask any other questions or give some comments, because you asked the most beautiful questions. So we have Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk. I want to piggyback off Brajarani's comment. I loved what you shared from Srila Prabhupada, that association could mean 2 or 20, 2 that you are compatible with, and you can go back to Godhead. 200 but incompatible, then no one makes spiritual advancement. That really resonates with me. You just need one person who helps you stay Krishna conscious, and you could perfect your life. I really connect with that. Thank you so much.
Nicely said. Yes.
And then we have a reflection on dear Srila Prabhupada's softness and kindness as a leader role model. They're inspiring and so needed today to enable progress.
Nice.
Yes, very. Anyone else have any comments or takeaways? Please post them on the chat, or any other questions. I have a question for you. The story you were telling about this meeting, and did she actually stand up and tell him what had gone wrong?
Oh, there's no question. That's Rukmini knows. If Srila Prabhupada asked you something, you answered.
Yeah. Wow.
Mention what the question was, because I think we didn't hear that, right?
Oh, it was I was telling them that it was in Vrindavan when Srila Prabhupada had invited so many dignitaries and his godbrothers to the opening of the Vrindavan temple, and the temple was far from being done. And Srila Prabhupada was so angry. I don't think I ever saw him angrier than that. And all of the leaders who had been in charge of the temple construction were there. And Yamuna had been, what's the word I'm looking for? Subjugated. She had been pushed down so much in that position of management that she had withdrawn within herself more or less. she sat in the back. She knew that the temple wasn't anywhere near ready, but she was not in a position to tell Srila Prabhupada about it. He was out of the station and the men were writing him, one in particular. And so in this meeting, all of us were in this room. And I remember Srila Prabhupada sitting in, Yamuna sitting in the back corner, and she had her sari pulled down over her head, so that she was hoping, I guess, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't see her. And he went from one man to another, said, "What is wrong? What has happened here?" And each man cast the blame on the next man, on down the line. It's more or less their fault, their fault, their fault. So at the end of it, he looked over where Yamuna was sitting and he said, "Yamuna," he said, "now stand up and tell me what's really going on here." No. And she knew that it would all come back on her, that the men would again, they didn't like that she led kirtans. And I'm not saying I'm generalizing, I'm not saying that at all. The ones who wanted to lead kirtans and the ones who were in charge of the Vrindavan construction project, Yamuna just felt disrespected. That's the best way that I can put it. She felt disrespected. And so when Srila Prabhupada asked her that, he often asked for her opinion on things. And when he asked her that in the room full of devotees, she answered him, of course. I don't even remember what her answer was, but certainly it was something to the effect that, there was some mismanagement. And she knew that it would come back to haunt her afterwards. No. Yeah. But it's an interesting thing to look at as well, because even though she ultimately left there because of all of that, it ended up that, I met her and we ended up, having a very wonderful Krishna conscious life where couldn't have been more fortunate for me and certainly all the other devotees that she impacted, which were so many in her life, through her books and through her person and her example and her Krishna consciousness and her compassion and empathy. She was one of those people that it didn't matter where or when, whether it was a grocery store, or it didn't matter where or when she walked into a room, it was like everyone immediately came to her. She just had that charisma, that aura about her that was very strong, So in the end, there's a plan for everything, and something may look like the worst challenge, the end of the world, so to speak. But there's always a plan. Krishna had a plan, and it turned into something very, very sweet and very wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. So many jewels that you're giving us.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have time for announcements. Yes? Oh, here it is. The audiobook again.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, also we have our WhatsApp group, if anyone wants to join us there. That Brajarani has just posted that. So I have a suggestion. I don't know if this is probably the best place to do it, but when this book is released, it would be beautiful if Urban Devi did a showcasing of this book, and you can tell us all these beautiful stories of Yamuna Devi and spend the time you spent with her. And I think that would just be amazing. I was just reflecting on how she was such a powerful leader without being a person who went out there and said, I want to be a leader, I'm a leader, and everyone fall in line. And she just exuded.
She was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
She never liked to put herself forward in any way. She was very humble. You know, I think people could see that, people perceive that within her as well.
Yeah. And just you sharing of how he always asked her questions, asked her for her opinion. He showed her as a leader, right? He gave her that
Yes,
place.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's incredible. So many lessons in that.
yeah. He used to tell her that, you know, he used to tell her that, you know, joke with her, you were more advanced than your husband. And he would say when he took, the husband took sannyas, he said, you should follow the good example of your wife, who's now sannyasini, and you should take sannyas.
Wow.
You know, like that.
Yeah.
He would sometimes, in a teasing way, he would also speak like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. So we have another comment. Very grateful for this presentation and discussion. Thank you for your generous spirit, Dinatarini, Devi. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Krishna.
This is so beautiful to hear. So heartwarming.
Yes, my pleasure. I'm so honored to be able to share this little bit of time with you, but I'm sorry I have to go now.
Yeah.
I have
thank
a
you.
1:30 appointment here on my end. But yes, I just thank you all for your journey and sharing it with each other. That's wonderful. And I hope that I've been some little insight. I don't know.
So much. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you join us again soon.
Thank you so
And-
much.
and
Haribol
feel
to
well.
all of you. Hare
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, dear friends. So July 25th, we have our dear speaker, Shruti Rupa Devi Dasi. She's going to be speaking to us, giving us stories of cooking for Srila Prabhupada. That sounds amazing, really.
She's with us right now.
Yeah.
You can find her. She's here. But,
I am here.
Oh, Zoom user. Hello. Hare Krishna, Shruti Rupa.
Incognito Zoom user.
Hey, we're really looking forward to hearing from you. This is going to be amazing.
and
Well,
it will be also Yamuna Devi continued, because Shruti Rupa also had many, many wonderful, loving times with Yamuna Devi. So we can just continue from this session on to hearing from Shruti Rupa about Srila Prabhupada and Yamuna Devi.
that's very true. I can't think of Prabhupada or speak about Prabhupada or cooking without speaking about Jamuna. So that has been a blessing.
Great. Oh, we're so looking forward to it. Okay,
Thank
dear
you.
friends, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your presence, and I hope to see you next month.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. All glories, all glory.
Oh, glorious. Thank
Krishna.
you, Leela, for your effulgent shining. Thank you, Brajarani. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so
Haribo.
much.